Hey guys, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our level 3 courses. Wem and I tried to sit down and do some big swanky radio advert and it's just not us. So I'm just going to chat about it for a minute. So our level 3 training is the same price as some other courses out there where you just get 5 days and you are out the door, do your coursework on your own. Our course is for the same price is 10 days of training. So for our May cohort, that's 5 days. And then we have a bit of a month off to just let that settle. We come back for a weekend, maybe do a bit of camping. Then we have a bit more time off and then we come back for another weekend. With the September group, we do 5 Mondays starting in September. Then we have a bit of a break. Then we come back in the new year and do another 5. So we're really like focusing on building community as we go. We didn't really want to do that like conveyor belt thing. We could be doing, a level 3 course every school holiday, banging them out, off you go. But we don't want to do that. We do Zoom calls throughout the year. We do loads of like cohort, community building sessions and stuff to help people with what they're doing. And that means that we want to do it well rather than doing lots of it. So we're trying to help people do that. And we're also really big on this community aspect. And we found that people not only find the course easier to do in terms of workload, but also easier to do emotionally when they do it with somebody they already know. So to try and encourage that, we're doing a train together kind of offer. So if you and someone else sign up to do the course with us together, we'll give you some money off your course because we found that the success rate is much higher. People are much happier while they're doing the course, and it makes our life easier as tutors because, happy students, motivated students, we're all kind of getting on together. So if you want to be part of a community rather than just being put through a conveyor belt, then have a look at our website. It goes to myforestschooltraining.co.uk. That'll take you to the Children of Forest website, and you can go from there, get your application in, and join our communities. So on with the podcast.
I'm Wem.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Forest School Podcast.
Let's go! Oh, wait.
You threw the Sharpie on the floor. We're talking about validation today. We're talking about validating feelings and invalidating feelings. Do you know what? When we were doing a bit of reading about this one, I was like, this is, in one face of it, so simple and so obvious, and another face of it, I kind of, as I was reading all this stuff, I was like, every single human being I know, including myself, needs fully educating about this thing, because it is like so simple, but I feel like every human that I know almost like has been like wrongly educated through our
cultural. It's definitely cultural.
It's definitely cultural expectation that is just twisted. It's twisted up, man.
Yeah, so just to go back a bit, because I suggested this as a topic actually quite a while ago now, and we just haven't it's been a while since we've done our podcast. Okay. But this was one of the people sometimes go like, oh, I ramble on and this is, can't stick to a point. But sometimes that's where you find the nuggets. And this nugget came from when we were talking to Sam Harris of Neurodive.
Yes.
And he said, in like a passing way...
Oh, I've been shot.
It's a crow scarer, but yes, it does sound like you've been shot.
It took me quite a couple of moments there to get that.
Good.
And maybe the listeners can't even hear that gunshot on the podcast. There were just 2 gunshots. I thought it'd be funny to pretend that I was dead.
We'd be in a rural countryside and there'd be gunshots. It's not going well out here in the sticks, guys.
I'm dead.
Yeah. Sam was talking and he said about... He mentioned validating feelings in the way of like, he was saying when people are having dysregulated moments and saying like, holding people and going like, you're safe, it's all right, this stuff. And we're saying like that can be hugely invalidating because there's a conflict between what that person's inner world is saying and what the adults around them are saying. And actually, I don't think we went into it much when we were talking to Sam, but that's been percolating around in my head. And also I am now at a point where I don't mind sharing a bit of my family life. My daughter is about to turn 3 and is very, very challenging. And you've seen this firsthand. It's like a lot of, at the moment, requests, like, can you get my bottle for me? yep, I can get you a bottle for you. Oh, it's over here. And then, because it's been going on for a while now, I'm going, do you want me to pick it up? Yep. Okay, do you want me to, shall I bring it there? Yep. Okay. You want me to pick it up? Okay, yep. And then all that checking, and then I pick it up, and the second it's in my hand, full screams, don't pick it up! Put it back! How dare you! You know, which is like, you know, challenging when it's about me. But then I heard myself saying more often than usual, because that's where she is in her development. I've heard myself more often than not going, it's okay, it's all right, it's all right. Or things like, it's a cup, it doesn't matter, you're going to be all right. And I just heard myself saying it in a way that I was like, that's happening automatically, and I want to explore that. And then obviously that memory from Sam came back, and I was like, oh, okay.
That is our go-to, isn't it? Like any kind of, in inverted commas, in our viewpoint, minor thing, like child falls over, scrapes their knee, they're upset, they are really upset, and you're kind of going, yeah, it's okay, you're all right. That is our instant thing, probably because that's what was done to us, and that's what we hear all around us, rather than, and it comes from a good place. It comes from an instinct of just wanting to make that person feel okay. But and I think this is backed up by a lot of the stuff that whole brain child guy
Dan Siegel
would say about like kind of soothing and making somebody feel safe, is that actually just like pushing their feelings aside and going, no, it's okay, doesn't do that job. What does that job and make them feel safe is giving them, like, holding space basically for the feelings, being there, co-regulating, and all those kind of things, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yes.
In a bit more detail.
Yes. The big one that I saw, which I think was really interesting, was it was in Psychology Today, and it was an article talking about validating feelings and that stuff of saying it's okay, or but also they'd gone a little bit further in this article, and they were talking about things like the phrases like "don't be so silly," or "you shouldn't be crying about this."
Can I add to that? Is this a big problem or a small problem?
Yes.
Which is a really, it's a phrase that is advised for people to use with children, so that they can try and get perspective. And it just really doesn't sit well with me. I just think, well, it's your job to kind of reflect back what you're hearing, rather than to try and get them. I don't know. It's just dodgy. Carry on. Sorry, I interrupt you. Don't be silly.
Don't be silly. All these, these things. And they were saying that what that can create is
Just want to check that we're definitely recording.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool.
They were saying in that article that it teaches the recipient, not necessarily children, the recipient, to not trust their inner world, and to kind of and actually just that phrase, like, not trust their inner world. And then they had lots of examples of what that means. But I was thinking about, particularly for young learners that we're working with, and that what we are trying to develop, in the same way that you would develop that thing of like, we're developing risk assessment skills because we want them in the world to be able to go, I'm assessing this situation, I'm feeling, it looks like this, I'm doing this. So I shouldn't have said feeling in there, that's the wrong thing. But if we are invalidating people's inner worlds, are we, I was just kind of reflecting on that then, like, you scale that up to like, okay, then you've got an adult who gets into what they feel like is an uncomfortable situation. Either this person isn't treating me well, or I'm actually not physically safe right here and doing whatever. And that person has been taught not to trust that voice.
Yeah.
And or not to engage with it, to kind of go like, what I think is wrong.
Don't be silly.
Don't be silly.
I'm
being silly now. I'm being this. I'm being that. And actually, that was quite powerful for me to scale it up to that adult thing.
Yeah.
And think, oh, okay, this is a skill building thing. This is a, like you say, holding the space and actually reflectively listening back. And, it sounds like this is, I can see you're really upset. I can see this is, it looks to me like you don't feel physically comfortable right now. All these things are giving someone much more, in the same way that we would assess risk and say that's very high, you know these sort of declarative statements. You're sort of declaratively doing inner world statements of like,
Yeah.
it looks like you are sad. I can see that this is really big. I'm wondering if you're feeling like this, feeling this certain way. And then you're allowing the learner to do the emotional check-in and risk assessment with that information.
Absolutely. So I think there's like a step that you're facilitating in terms of like helping the person to realise what they're feeling and then how to regulate. It's like
Yes.
different steps. And I found an interesting thing about, I don't know if you saw this in your reading, about 6 levels of validation. Did you
Oh
come across
no,
this?
please tell me about 6 levels.
Okay, so level 1 is simply being present. And that is actually more challenging than it sounds. So you can't multitask. You can't be going, oh yeah, I'm listening to your experience about what happened today with your friend, but I'm also kind of like washing up or doing the, or like, you know, fully being present and actually listening, and not worrying about what you say. So a lot of the time that is just about being silent. It's trying to suppress that instinct of going, it's okay. Oh, don't worry. Oh, that happens all the time. Just be quiet and just listen. That's level 1. And if that's all you can do right now, then that's cool.
Are these levels, I just
Yeah.
have a clarifying question,
Yeah.
are these levels working up in terms of effectiveness, or are they just a random list of 6? Is like 2 better than 1 and 3 is better than 2?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
right,
so
I'm on board now.
But they're
Yep.
all good.
Of course, I just was, when you went to,
Yeah.
before we went to the next one, I was
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to
Yeah.
visualize it.
And level 1 will also probably involve sitting with uncomfortable feelings that come up.
Mm-hmm.
So someone, you know, your child or a child you're working with telling you how they're feeling, you've really gone, oh my God, that makes me feel really, that's quite triggering for me actually. Or God, I really want to protect you in that moment. Or I want to take action. I want to do something. I want to solve this problem.
Speed.
Just-
We've
yeah.
got to get back
Just
to this. We've got to get back to the lesson. We've got to get
Breathe
back
in,
to this.
longer breath out than you breathe in.
Yeah.
Just sitting with it and just being present. No judgment, no, you know, just
Mm-hmm.
being present. Level 2, after you can do that, is accurate reflection. So it's kind of what you touched upon, reflecting back the person's feelings or even your own. And that and the intent there is about getting to a greater true understanding of how that person is feeling and what they're going through, and not judging it. So saying things like, oh, I'm guessing that made you feel angry because blah blah blah, or I'm guessing that, or it sounds as if you're saying, but you're not doing it to try and like round up that person's experience or sum it up. You're trying to get a greater understanding. So
Yes.
accurate reflecting. So, oh, I can hear you saying la 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 la.
You really do, and yeah, I suppose that's a really, we went over that quite quickly, but like not judging has got to be hugely important there in terms of reflecting. Like, I can see that it's really upsetting for you that your shoelace got stepped on, or like I can see it's making you like taking the judgment out of
Yeah,
it.
and
big
not-
problem,
not
small
a-
problem, just being like,
Yeah.
I can see this is your reaction to this
Yeah.
scenario
And
event.
not ending it, but it's not really a big deal.
yeah.
Take that sentence out.
Yeah.
Oh, so hard,
Okay.
so hard. And then level 3, and you touched on it a minute ago, is about reading a person's behaviour and guessing what they're feeling, because or thinking, because sometimes a person won't be able to verbalise how they're feeling. They might not have the interoceptive skills to be able to interpret their emotions. So we're going to come across a lot of learners, adult and child, who are feeling something, but they literally don't know what they're feeling,
Yes.
and they don't have the interoception to be able to recognise the interoception being a sense that is about your internal world. So being able to process emotions and understand them and feel them. So if you might be getting a little bit irritated at some point during the day, if you don't have the interoception to interpret that, then you'll just carry on perhaps doing the thing, and then you'll get more irritated, but you won't be able to feel that inside yourself until you have this big overflowing of emotion. So as well as interoception being, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm too hot and too cold, I need the toilet, all of those internal world things. So sometimes somebody might not have the interoceptive skills to literally name what they're feeling and understand what they're feeling. So you could help them out with that just by looking at their behaviour and reading it and trying to have that skill of trying to name it for them. But of course, they are always right. You could guess and you could be wrong, so you need to be able to have that like in the back of your mind. So you might use the phrase again, oh, I can see your face is I can see you're frowning, or I can see you look
Your muscles
sad.
look very tense. You're
Yeah,
doing
I'm
that.
guessing you look stressed out, but be ready for them to go, no, I'm not feeling that, I'm actually feeling this. So you're literally just kind of delving there, you're trying to help them out. Yes, Lewis, you have your hand up.
So I put my hand up because I wanted to, when we got to the end of this, just add a scenario in, because I think, as you were saying that in terms of like reflecting back, and the way you were describing that was like those little drip moments of like getting more frustrated, which I think any practitioner, any person that works with learners is going to be familiar with that thing, in terms of like, I feel like something's going here, and maybe I need to plan something different for after snack, or maybe I need to remove this resource, or maybe I need to suggest this thing. And actually, so two things. One, I was reflecting, which was, how often do we do that explicitly rather than subversively? Right. So subversively being like, I'm going to very quietly go and put the box of hammers away because something's happening here and I don't want them to come and find the hammers.
Or the noise is, I can see, even though no one said, I can see that the noise of the hammers might be making someone feel anxious.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the
Yes.
subversive way of doing it.
Yes.
And then how often and what are the benefits of doing it explicitly?
Declarative language.
Holding a
bridging.
group. I can see that noise is an issue, so I'm. You could still do it in the same declarative way. Like, I'm going to take the step of removing some noises, like hammers and like this and whatever else.
So valuable.
Which is obviously
If you do it
super
the right
valuable,
way.
and then we're providing extra things, because not only are we improving the physical space, but we are also giving that feedback back and
Yeah.
allowing the learners to go, they're saying that noise is an issue. Is noise an issue for me? Oh yeah, no, maybe it is the noise for me.
Yeah.
Then I was trying to think, what do we do in situations where, like you say, like we're ready to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We're ready to be, for the learner to go like, it's not that, it's not that.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
You do know what I'm going to say, because so like, and this happens with small children a lot. Like when we were doing the kindergarten, it would happen of like, don't need to eat, don't want to eat, don't need a drink, don't need a drink. I don't.
Yeah,
do you
so
want-
would an example be, or like, I'm going to take away the hammers because I have a feeling that the noise is upsetting for some people, and I think we've probably done that for quite a long time, and we can always get them back out later. But
I can see some faces are getting like this,
Yeah.
and I'm just.
And
yeah.
they're actually no, I'm fine. Is that what you mean? No, don't take the hammers away. No, it's not a problem. Is that what you mean?
Yes, when what you're seeing and then what the learners are saying, because they're interoception, it doesn't match the behaviour you're seeing. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but it doesn't match the behaviour you're seeing, that you end up in a potentially a stalemate situation of like, what do I do then? Do I let you, I validate your feeling of hammers are okay, and
But do you know what? In here it also says about reflecting your own feelings. So that
Yeah, I
can
have
be
a note
part of the
about that,
dialogue,
yeah.
right? So you could be. So obviously you want to try and communicate that whole process without flipping somebody's switch for them to go, no, I'm not going to do, because then you're kind of placing a demand.
It's not
on
challenging,
there.
it's not demand,
That could be invalidating. It could be a way of them going, no, I'm fine. And you go, no, you're really not fine. So I'm going to take away the hammers.
Yeah.
Like, that is invalidating, right? So you want to kind of get to the point. So maybe there are some times where it is quite good to just do it on the quiet and just provide.
Yeah,
another
definitely.
thing.
That's
And
what
it's
I'm
about
trying.
reading the
There are
situation.
different moments for
Yeah.
those two different options.
Yeah.
I just was reflecting that, like,
Yeah.
do we do that consciously?
Yeah.
Is that something subconsciously? I think you and I as leaders are very good at quietly saying to each other, can we move that? Or, actually,
gonna start
I'm
doing this.
going to go off and do this. And those things are...
But our own feelings can be part of that conversation in terms of being honest and declarative about it and go, I just feel I need to put the hammers away right now because I feel like I'm being stressed out by the noise. If that's okay, I'm just going to do that. We can get them back out later. We are equally part of that, and to describe which we can come on to later about describing your own feelings and la la la.
Yeah, sorry, carry on. We got to 4, did we? Or we're in 5 now?
Just to add on to level 3 about it might not just be a kind of lack of or sort of developing interoceptive skills, but also, I don't even know if interoceptive is a word, but you know what I mean, interoception skills could also be about masking. So could be like, I am really aware of how I'm feeling, actually. I've got a really well developed internal world, but that's not appropriate, that's not acceptable. I've learned that I have to not show those things, so I'm just going to flip and mask really hard all the time. which is a really bad state to be in all the time. So so being able to name and validate someone's feelings, like you're looking like you're upset. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I'm not fine. Okay, well, let's just take some time. If you want me to go away, I'll go away, but I'm going to try and help you to name that feeling and maybe
and
make
also
it okay.
I think in those situations I quite often then follow that up with like okay, if this changes at any point in the future, come tell me, or let me know if we want to do this, and like not like bulldoze through, but just go like, okay, but if in a moment the demand of being face to face has gone and you do actually have these needs,
That's a great
then
way
let
to
me
put it.
tell you what the next steps might be. Then they've got a plan to come with you and go, oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So that's level 3, reading a person's behaviour and
Great.
having a guess.
Love
Level
it.
4, understanding the person's behaviour in terms of their history and biology.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is getting into like, long-term relationships. Maybe you might think about this in terms of like a really great friend who just flipping gets you, who when you're having a really tough moment and you're talking to them, this is into the therapy realm, right?
Yeah,
the counselling
definitely.
realm. You don't want to be doing this unless you really have a great relationship with somebody.
2 weeks into a 6-week block.
Exactly.
Got it.
So this is like the kind of things you might hear talking to a really great friend who just takes a pause and goes, I'm guessing that's quite hard for you given the fact that your dad left and now this person's left and this might be doubly difficult for you, or something like that.
That's so big.
Yeah.
You've got to have such a
know.
relationship to bring
I know,
that stuff
I
up.
know.
Because if you're wrong,
Yeah.
holy crap, have
And
you got
can
that
make it
wrong?
worse. You can make it worse by bringing up past
That's what I
trauma.
mean. Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need to verbalise it. Do you know what I mean? You can
Oh, yeah,
be
yeah,
like,
of course.
hang on a minute. I get that this thing that to an outsider who doesn't know this person very well may seem trivial, the fact that they've just broken something they've made, for example.
Yeah.
But you know that person and you know that something that is relevant to that, like, I don't know, can you think of a thing that's relevant to breaking something?
I can.
And you're like, hang on a minute, this is going to be really tough for this learner, rather than it just being about the broken toy. This could be triggering past trauma. So I'm just going to act with that awareness rather than, this reminds me of the time that this terrible thing happened to you.
Well, I was going to say, is it not necessarily about reminding people, reminds you of the time, insert specific incident here? Is it like the softer approach, or the middle ground maybe, is to like go, oh, I know you've had a lot of, like, I know that rejection is really hard. It's something that's come up a lot. And then you let them fill in the blanks in their own head if they want to pull back to memories. But you can sort of mention a vague theme of like, I know this is, social commitments are hard, and that's a thing for you. Or like, I know that people not sticking to what they say is something that's been a big thing for you. And
so then you're helping someone recognise their fingerprint needs.
yes, you're sort of reflecting back a pattern rather than saying this is exactly like when you're just going like, I wonder if this is a theme, and allowing them to do that you're going, hey look, there's a lot of dots over here, but then they draw the line. Maybe that's
Yeah. I like that.
Thanks, man.
Nice. So level 5, which actually I feel like we as humans might do quite a lot actually, and isn't necessarily way up there, is about normalizing and recognizing emotional reactions that anyone would have. So understanding that emotions are normal. So this is a weird one because it could be seen as invalidating. Oh, everyone feels that way. That's invalidating.
Well, that's
But to
dismissive
go,
as well, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. But to recognize and go, well, yeah, of course you're feeling anxious. There's a big change coming up. You're starting in a new group, or you're moving, or and these are stressful moments, and making it okay to have big feelings and strong feelings, and going, this is normal. And then I've got something to say, and I don't know whether to say it there or not. No, I'll say it in a minute if I remember. And then level 6, radical genuineness. When you understand the emotion someone is feeling on a very deep level. Maybe you've had
Sounds
a
like a
similar
very wholesome
experience.
rapper.
Yeah. It's sharing the experience as equals. So rather than you going, yeah, I'm the expert here, and you're just the person who's vulnerable right now because you're experiencing this big emotion, you're like, I completely get it. I've been there. And really being on a level and sharing the experience as equals.
That's equals, mate. I can't think of an example of. I can't think of an example of that that's happened to me, or I can't get to that.
Really?
Because there's something about there and it being equals that if you go back a level or two and go, accepting, looking at patterns and, like you say, because to experience it as equals, you'd be looking at that and going, okay, well, your family split up when you were 7 and you moved around a lot and then you did this and then you did this and this. So if you're in a adult child, situation there, then there's obviously that thing of like, I don't know. I was going to say you can't necessarily be equals there, but you could if an adult. I'm trying to work out if you can genuinely be as equals if you haven't been on at least a very similar journey. Like, I can empathise with friends I have really, really hard when they talk about families splitting up or whatever, but my family didn't split up. So I'm trying to work out whether I can ever genuinely experience that as an equal, because I don't have that story.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And I think the moments when I do feel it are the moments when I shut the hell up. So when a learner's really dysregulated, and it's something I've only learnt to do in the last probably 9 months, and it started with breathing, and everyone always talks about breathing, and I never remember to do it because it's like, oh, breathe in a square, la 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 la. And for me, that's in that moment of like, oh my god, I've got a dysregulated person, I'm now beginning to feel dysregulated, how do I help them? And the only thing about breathing that's helped me, which Sam Harris talks about but also other people have talked to me about, is just about making your out breath longer than your in breath. And so that is my first step when meeting someone who's dysregulated, and just be quiet and don't say that it's going to be okay, oh la 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 la, and going through those steps or whatever. But the moments of then, when we've done some talking, just sitting, maybe swinging in a hammock, maybe sitting on the floor, maybe walking alongside them, and just breathing and making my out breath longer than my in breath, is then when I feel in my body the same feeling that they're feeling, even if the reasons are something I've never experienced. That's when it's almost like your nervous systems are in co-regulation, and so you feel this like deep, and I kind of feel it in my solar plexus, and that's why it kind of helps with the breathing, because then you're kind of releasing it, like you feel it like a ball of sort of, I don't know, like a white kind of ball of
isn't down here.
Well, it's sort of in your,
up in your chest. Is it in here where your ribs split, isn't it? Is that your solar plexus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Easier to demonstrate if you don't have boobs, but so it's like
sorry.
up there. But and then breathing out kind of like releases it. And so you're kind of like feeling it together, but riding the wave together. So you're not trying to make it stop. You're not trying to go push that away. You're just acknowledging it, and you're riding the wave and going up and then coming down the other side. And gradually each wave is kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you're able to move on to do the next thing. So it's not getting rid of it. It's acknowledging it. It's sitting with it, being curious about how it feels in your body, and then doing something that nourishes you at the end. So whether that's a cup of tea or a running game.
You as the listener, or both of you.
Both of you, ideally.
Yeah.
It's like, so what are we going to do next? That doesn't try to go, forget that, move on. It's about doing the right thing that nourishes us in that moment of vulnerability and hardship. Oh, man.
Actually, that's a really interesting point, though, about nourishing afterwards, because that is one of the puzzle pieces that you definitely get rid of when you have the that priority of speed. In terms of like when you're meeting something as like, okay, yeah, but we've got to like get you back to regulated so that we can go and do the lesson. We've got you and like that, then you're obviously not going to think to then go, oh, and maybe after they're breathing normally again and their body's kind of relaxed, that's not the end of the journey. They then need to, whereas I definitely, in my journey, I would have thought a few years ago that once someone had come down, they were done. Oh, we've done this. They've come back down. They can talk to me again. So that's my cue that maybe they're there. But actually, maybe framing that. Actually, that's a really good way of framing of like, have you fed back in afterwards though? And again, it's that explicit, non-explicit thing of like, how powerful is that in terms of modelling for a group to go, actually we've had a really big, as a group, we've just had quite a big bust up. So now we're all here, but we haven't done anything to bring ourselves back up. So I, at the very least, need to go have some food, or I, at the very least, need to do some swinging or some shaking or something, and do it really explicitly, so that you're then giving your learners and your group the tools to be like, again, when my inner world does this, I need to bring it back up.
I've literally, and the only reason I've learnt it, and I don't mind sharing about my personal life, so I've been having some counselling, and flipping out, amazing. Just happened to have found the best counsellor in the universe. She's so good.
Amazing.
And I think her name is Tara Brack, not my counsellor. She's a writer who writes about this kind of thing. And I think it's that nourishing thing comes from this acronym of RAIN, which is recognize. I'm going to get it wrong, but the essence is recognise that you're having a tough time. So don't try and push through it, and accept it. So don't try and go, oh, I'm feeling this, and I shouldn't be feeling this. Just accept it. The I can't remember what it means, what the word is, but it's basically about like being inquisitive and internalizing. So where am I feeling it in my body? Oh, my shoulders are really tense, or my jaw is really clenched, or my tummy is really like, and then nourish. So it's like RAIN is the acronym. But yeah, literally just learnt it the other day, and you kind of notice these patterns of behaviour where, oh God, whenever I feel dysregulated, I always then manically tidy the house, or I always, and actually it doesn't help. It's just papering it over and storing it so that it's another thing, so that next time the feelings are even stronger. So yeah, I think that's amazingly powerful to be able to verbalise with a group and go, well, for me, nourishing right now looks like a cup of tea, or for me, nourishing right now looks like going for a run, or and it will be different for everybody. Yeah.
Because I guess if you don't nourish, you're still sat on a hair trigger, potentially. Like you've not got, if it was a linear up-down scale, you've gone down, but now you're okay at down, but you haven't brought back up. So therefore,
you haven't done something to fill your cup.
You haven't done, or the opposite metaphor, where we sometimes talk about buckets and needing to put holes in them, and you haven't released any of that stuff. So the second that another drop goes in, you're straight back in. And actually that is, I think, a pattern that we've all can recognize in learners, of like, they're dysregulated and get them back to, in air quotes, and all the air quotes here, we regulate together. 20 minutes later, they're back to being dysregulated in almost the same scenario, in all the, and like, actually, maybe we need, if just, I'm hypothesizing now because we haven't tried this out, but like, actually maybe having that view of like, and we need to get back to doing something, nourish it back up, maybe that is actually breaking the cycle, rather than, because that's, and again, I think everybody will recognize those days where you just go, this learner, these learners, this group, we're just on a spiral. And that's where people, I think, feel firefighty, of like, oh, I'm just fire, and I sorted that, and that's actually one of the things I made a note about, which was, so I was reading something else, and it was talking about just like, it's not, when you're validating someone's feelings, it's not about right and wrong. Again, we touched on that before. It's just about creating an emotionally safe space. And I was processing that and taking that in and thinking about how much of my experience as a child to adult caregivers and whatever, but also more so in teaching and less so doing forest school. Once we get down to that, like, okay, we're dysregulated, and I understand in that crisis mode, we do this and we get back to whatever. And then, and this is, I think, the wrong thing to do, like, we want to, or there's an urge, maybe just in me, to like, almost have the courtroom of the incident and go like, okay, so this happened and you said this and you hit this person, let's pick out all the pieces, let's get the story together, and turns out you were in the right. And like, do that afterwards. Or go like, okay, now you're calm, do you think it was a bit much to ask, like, even if you do the validating thing of like, I can see you're upset, I can see you're this, and then you get down and then you get that thing, and then you go, okay, but they were angry at you because you did this, and so you can't do this, and you like invalidate in a different way by going, well,
Yeah.
all of those things happened, and you therefore shouldn't have had your feelings to begin with.
Yes,
do you know that
yes, I
waffled,
do know what
but
you mean.
yeah.
And, no, I know exactly what you mean, and I think I've only recently stopped doing that. But then you kind of go, well, if you just don't do that at all, then is that fair on the people who are maybe always the victim of things, and does that help maybe a learner who's in this repetitive behaviour that does have a negative effect on people? But then it reminded me as you were talking, I was like, okay, but when do you do that then? Because you're absolutely right, it isn't in that moment of, oh, we've just got to the point where we're okay again,
So let's tell you
Yeah.
wrong again.
yeah, exactly. But it reminded me of the kind of Ross Green approach that we talked about in the episode on the explosive child, and the one about school, which I've forgotten the name of, that you read, and I read the explosive child.
Oh yeah, I didn't know. Yeah.
About doing the ALSUP, which is the audit of lagging skills and unsolved problems.
Yeah.
So you might have a learner that and you've noticed this kind of pattern behaviour that this is always tricky for them, and it has this ripple effect perhaps on other people. And so the time to then have the conversation, which Ross Green goes into in detail, about how to ask these questions about, I've noticed that often this seems tricky, what's up? And the learner might go, oh no, I don't want to talk about it, whatever. But then there's almost like a script to follow of kind of questions. He calls it drilling, which I think sounds like a really violent word. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But actually it's just about trying to get to the core of the problem when someone is regulated. So at a time when
Strike
that
when the
learner's
iron's
okay.
cold, that thing.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. So maybe we're driving, we're on a long drive, and we're sitting next to each other, so we're not looking each other in the eye. It's not just after something's happened. It's completely when that person's okay, and being ready to accept that they might not want to talk about it right then, but come back to it in a bit, and trying to get to the root of the problem when they're completely maybe away from the people that they continually are experiencing challenges with, or do you know what I mean?
Yes,
so you still
I
do it, but you're
Yeah.
not viewing it through a judgmental lens, like you're describing about courtroom, who's right, who's wrong, what really happened. Oh, okay, well that's the person who needs the punishment.
Yeah.
It's not, kids do well when they can.
And even not the punishment, but in terms of the story, it's knowing who the bad person was.
Yeah.
Who was the bad guy in this story? Well, let's piece together who did, and so even if there's not a physical, I don't mean physical as in beating, I mean there's a punishment in terms of socially, everybody was gathered together to learn how you were wrong, or which is just or even if it's two people having a disagreement, to bring them back together so that you can drill through the and drill in the horrible sense in this way, you can drill horribly through the story and get back to well, you threw the first stone, is essentially where I feel like a lot of those assessments go. But as you were saying that thing, you triggered a thought in my head, which you said about driving, and I'm sure lots of people have come across this idea of when you're driving, you sit next to each other, you're not making eye contact, you're doing this thing, you can have these discussions. Hello, squirrel. And actually it occurred to me that sometimes we would have these group discussions in a circle, right? We would collectively go, let's sit in a circle and let's maybe let's talk about a group's need. Hey, we're all finding this play scheme challenging, or I'm wondering how we can solve the fact that you guys want the Den Hill for this and you guys want the Den Hill for this. And actually, if I think about it, children who are having, or learners even, who are having disagreements naturally sit on opposite sides of the circle when you bring them in. So you've made them face to face. The fucking benches are a circle, but they're sitting face to face. That's when we get stuck in that thing of yeah, but you need to know that he did this. Yeah, but she was, and they weren't playing, and they told me to do. Because even though the benches are a circle, we're all sat face to face. And there's something in there, I think, about I don't know. That's just occurred to me that this looks like a circle, but if you sit opposite, you are face to face, and that's more challenging and more confrontational. Anyway, side note, thought maybe this is a podcast down the line, but that's just occurred to me that
because we will if it's between 2 or 3 learners and there's an incident or whatever, we will try to bring them to a position where they are sitting
we all sit on a bench in a line, we all face this way, or we all
sit
do
down on
whatever.
the floor on the hill and do that and position ourselves side by side.
Yeah.
But if it's a whole
oh
my god, I think
There's something there. I've just nuggets.
It's a podcast about actually the bad things about a circle. I think there could be actually quite a few.
It's just dripped into my
Love it.
little brain. What was I going to say? No.
Can I say something?
Yes, please do.
So I read a thing about executive function and self-regulation, right? So executive function being, I find it really hard to explain, but the ability to like organise, put things in order, yeah.
Admin.
Your
brain admin.
Brain admin, which includes emotions, which includes
There's a song
decisions.
for you. Brain admin.
Okay, next
Can you
song
do
was-
a song called Brain Admin?
Oh, yes. Oh my God.
It can't just be the same song though, because you can't write a song called Brain Admin where you just go check it again, because you've already written that one, and that is your brain admin.
It is. Oh God. I know this is going to be bonkers. We were talking about the Mars Volta earlier. It's going to imagine 2 Mars Volta versions of the brain.
Focus.
Anyway.
Focus.
Yeah. So
Executive function.
okay, cool. So okay. Imagine you, again, this goes back to like not trying to fix it. So some people might go, oh, it's all very well, but if you're just like validating their feelings the whole time, you're kind of kowtowing to them and you're just like letting them call the shots. Like every time they don't like something, they're just going to cry, and then you're going to just stop and like validate their crying, and it's all going to, you know, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
so
blah,
I
blah,
have
blah.
heard people, this is a really common thing with toddlers,
Yes.
where people go, I'm not talking to you while you're like this. You can
Planned
talk to
ignoring.
me. Yeah, you can
Ugh.
you can talk to me. Or
Blech.
she's having a strop, and we're having dinner, or like they're doing that, and no, I'm not going to do that thing
Yeah.
until you talk to me nice. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I'm playing devil's advocate. You might go, oh God, yeah, co-regulation's all very well, but if they're crying because they didn't get the purple cup again,
You're teaching them that's how
and
they
you're
get their
just
way.
co-regulating with them and going, oh, I can see this is so hard for you. Oh my God, I feel like I want to go into a very racist, stereotypical American accent.
Crunchy.
You know? Oh my God.
Granola mum.
Oh my God. Let's just take 20 minutes every time you cry because you haven't got the purple cup. So,
Takes 20 minutes anyway, mate. She needs the purple
I
cup.
know.
Anyway.
So, the counter argument to that is to view the tears as neutral. You're not trying to stop the tears. The tears are neutral. They're just a thing that's happening. You're not going, stop crying. You're not going, oh my God, you're crying. They're just a thing that's happening. You're validating the emotions and not invalidating them. But the kind of layer of practicing the executive function skills is not by trying to solve is not by always go, like, say, the purple cup is an easy problem to fix, but say another thing about like,
Yeah.
I really wanted more clay. Because this is a scenario that could happen. You look at the bag of clay and you make an assessment. Actually, do you know what? I do need to keep some clay back because I know I've got a group later who really need the clay. So I can't let this group use all the clay.
Mm-hmm.
One person wants more clay. They've made a thing and they just really flipping need another bit of clay to add to the thing. So you could just go, oh, okay, well, that wasn't my plan and it is going to really mess up that other group, but this person's really upset. So I just want to make sure that I can see it really matters to them, and I'm not going to invalidate their feelings. So I really am going to accept that it is important to them. So I am going to give them the clay.
Yeah.
But this is going to create a real problem for the afternoon group or whatever, right?
With you.
So the idea is that you don't give them the clay. You talk about, I can see this is really hard for you. I can't give you more clay right now because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But these are your options that you could do. So you can give them some things.
Okay.
You could do this. You could do this. But so you're kind of validating their feelings without kowtowing. Does that make sense? I don't know if kowtowing is the right word.
I have a qualifying question, because the example you've just used, you said your options are you could do this, you could do this, you
Or
could
we
do
could
this.
do this. Well,
Okay, that was my clarifying question, was like, in that scenario, are you also potentially offering like, I could get you some sticks, you could look for sticks, we could find something else to stick. It's not about it just being on them, right? You could also be giving options that you could do instead, like I could get you something.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just clarifying, yeah.
But the idea being, I think, that you are modelling for them how to solve problems maybe by themselves later, and obviously asking for help if they need it, but it's like, these are the things that I can think of. Could you think of any other ways that we could solve this problem? but by just always giving them the clay because you really feel that they feel that emotion strongly isn't actually helping them out executive function wise, which I think is an important point to make, don't you think?
Yes.
If you're always just going, oh my God, their feelings are so big on this matter that we need to stop everyone playing this game, or we need to, do you know what I mean?
I do. So I guess in that scenario, yeah, let's run with person is very upset, they want more clay. In that scenario, you're giving those options presumably after you've done these levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You wouldn't be going in at at like dysregulation point. Person is not hearing you, facial expressions are being perceived as more aggressive. You're not then in a dispassionate way going, your options are do this. You're talking about you co-regulate.
You've got to validate
and then
the feelings.
you validate the feelings first. So then again, toddlers planned ignoring, you would be talking about going not planned ignoring, validating the feelings but not giving in all the time, or not running your world around them.
Yes.
That's an interesting one. I wondered, I actually, so I'm going to talk about the thing that happened this week, my thing, which, well, it links to everything that's in this thing, but basically we sat down with one of our groups who really like war play, attacking, storming the castle, all this stuff. And I started the day by saying, like, as well as our normal circle, this is a tangent, but we've been trying to offer the circle, like, take ourselves out of it. Not physically, like we're not there, but we've been trying over the last couple of weeks to go, who wants to lead the circle? And that's been a bit of work around, what does it mean to lead the circle? And we got that wrong to begin with, and then we talked about, oh, okay, maybe it's, what are our roles in the circle? What's everybody's role? And so, anyway, but we've been talking about this, and so the group's been coming up with the question, like, how are we feeling, or what do you want to do today, or these things. And so I said, today, please could we add, before we do the circle, some announcements, if anybody has an announcement to make. Entirely self-serving, I had an announcement to make, and I was like, maybe other people do as well. But the announcement basically was me having reflected on my own body and nervous system and everything else, and I just said, look, I'm having my daughter's at a really difficult point, where we're having lots of challenging times at home, the learning that she's doing, which is presenting as her telling me that I'm doing things wrong a lot. And I said, I don't think I can do war play today. I don't think I can be the bad guy that storms the castle, which is normally my role. They're all a group and I storm the castle. Lightning rod. So so I'm taking all of the aggression. And I basically sort of just said, my body is telling me I can't take that aggression today. I won't react well to it. I won't be able to do that. So for today, I'd like to not play that.
Yeah. And you weren't saying they couldn't do it.
No. I was just saying I can't do this thing. And it was it felt weirdly like vulnerable. And it also was really, look, let's call a spade a spade. There's a power differential here in that, like, I'm the leader. Everything else that's going on in that relationship, that means that it isn't perfectly equal. But they immediately took that on board. They didn't say, oh, but you can still play this. Oh, you can, like, in terms of me feeling validated or accepted, they just were like, okay, cool, that's all right, yeah, thanks for, no one said, like, thanks for telling us, but nobody asked me for the whole day. They didn't.
I heard conversations with the learners going, oh, we can play this game a little bit. But remember, Lewis can't play the game today. Oh, okay, that's okay. We could someone's on it. I heard them refer back to it. They remembered it. It landed. There was a weird kind of quiet after you'd finished talking, while everyone let it sink in. So you saying it felt vulnerable.
It was really big, and we don't normally do big things in the circle.
But I think in terms of modelling, and then what I think you're going to go on to say is that for some learners, they were able to go, I actually think I feel a bit like Lewis today. I really feel like Lewis today. And oh my God, people had breakthroughs that day because they went, I'm not going to play that game because I feel a bit like Lewis and it's making me feel a bit cross, so I'm just going to go and do something else. I'm going to stop now. It's like, you've literally never done that. You've never been able to have that self-awareness.
Yeah.
I just think it was so valuable. It was brilliant.
but I don't think I could have done it inauthentically.
Oh,
which I think sometimes, you know, when you might try and do that thing, I might have tried in the past to go, oh, I'm going to pretend that I feel like I think that learner feels, so that I can stand up in the group and say, hey guys, I'm feeling like this, when really I'm not. It's just me. It's me being a mouthpiece. I think it worked because it was
completely
genuine and
yeah.
But then we got onto a really interesting thing where, so as I'm sure lots of people do, this feel like as leaders, the circle is a challenging time. We know it's important, we know it's valuable. It's a great check-in so that, you know, where are we in the day, what's the morning been like, all these things. But it's taxing on the attention span of everybody. So more often than not, you know, you do those things like, I'm sure some people will know, you know, where are your spiders today? Dead spiders, jumpy spiders, normal walking
spiders. This is demonstrating with your hands.
With your hands
are pretending
your hands are pretending to be spiders. A very quick check-in, or you might go around and say, okay, 2 words to check in, because you're actually trying to hold the needs of, we need to check in, but we need to not sit for too long.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was then, so I did my thing and it sat in and it melted, and then it's like, does anybody else have an announcement today? And then we ended up going round, and I mean, they had announcements. You can't not call them announcements.
Weren't those announcements first?
No, one of them was.
Okay.
But basically, so it was a really interesting reflection, and a learner came up to me afterwards, because the announcements, either after or around mine, were like, I'm getting a new toy at the weekend, or my granny is coming to stay, and then it becomes and then somebody across the circle goes, I know your granny, and then somebody else goes, I've got a granny as well, and then
I used to call that I've got my dog's called Gemma, because I used to have it like doing holding circles with really young children.
Yeah.
And literally at the beginning you go, okay, we're going to talk about how we're feeling today. I mean, our name and how we're feeling, or your name and your favourite animal. And talk about like, you know, 2 and 3 year olds, and you go, my name's Gemma. My dog's called Gemma. Like literally, I mean, you've literally
I've got a dog. Whose
like,
dogs?
oh
I've seen a dog. Do you know about brown dogs? All those things.
My dog's called Gemma. Yes.
But so, and then afterwards, one of the learners came to me and said, if he'd had the language, he basically would have gone, fuck those announcements, man. They were dog shit.
It was a shit show.
It was a shit show. Let's not do that again. And I was with him, and I was just kind of going like, I was just reflecting. So, you didn't like it? Nah, man. It was bullshit. Oh, okay. What did you think? I was just talking about toys and stuff, or films they liked, wasn't it? It wouldn't know anything. I was like, yeah, okay, I get that. What is an announcement? And we were going back and forth and basically going, let's not give up on the idea, but where's the guidance here? Do we say to people like, and then we got to me and him, we said, well, is it like an announcement is about you or your body, versus a conversation could be about your thing or your whatever else? And then it sounded okay, and then I said it to you, and then you reflected back like, actually I said it to you, you looked at me and I went, oh yeah, but of course, da-da-da-da-da-da. So we were talking about, you know, for some people, talking about the new toy they've got, or talking about the tractors, the number of tractors they saw on the way there, is an announcement about their bodies.
And themselves.
It's wrapped up in tractors, or it's wrapped up in like, did you know the B-38 aeroplane is going over right now? But actually, what's underneath that is like, I need to tell you what's really important and what's making my body feel fizzy today, or what's making my body whatever today.
Who are we to go, well, yeah, that's an acceptable announcement, and that isn't.
Yeah. It was just theirs was more
Which
veiled.
Basically means the whole day just has to be a circle. The whole day just has to be
But it can't be, because we can't sit. And it's finding that balance of like, so again, validating needs without interrupting people, because you want, again, in a circle, you want to be modeling like, you know, somebody, quite often, if somebody who's not partaking in the circle is talking, they'll come and talk to us. Toddler groups, that happens a lot. We're halfway around the circle and someone comes up to you and goes, are you going on an adventure? You're trying to go, sorry, we're just, and I just go, I try and give a really quick response and then go, I'm listening to that person now, I'm listening over there. Trying not to disrupt the flow and to model. But how do you go?
Well, there's been an idea.
Hello, could you shut the fuck up now? Because it's taken a really long time.
Yeah, I know. And I was wondering about, sometimes we need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to feel heard. but do we need to feel heard by everybody? And do we as participants, and especially as leaders, need to hear what's important for people? Do we need to hear everything? So I'm trying to think about what is the benefit and not benefit of talking just to the person next to you. So the benefit of just telling the person next to you all at the same time is that you get to say what you need to say and you get to feel heard by somebody. The not benefit is that if there's anything important that we as leaders, the adults need to know, we might not hear it. So is there a kind of two-step thing of tell the person next to you something that's going on for you right now, something that's important to you? Does anybody feel like they also need to share that with the group? But then I think you get the same effect.
Because that is, sorry, not to be like, no, yes, and.
Validate my feelings, man.
That's not a feeling, it's an idea.
Validate my ideas.
I have to validate your ideas.
Why? Just poo on my idea.
Because, how do you conflate that with, because it sounds like where you're going is like, tell the person next to you something that they need to know. Tell the whole group something we all need to know, right? Which is not dissimilar from where we started in terms of, is this a big thing or a small thing?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying that.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
And I could,
Yeah, exactly.
You can't say like, okay, but if you could talk about the new My Little Pony book, just to your partner, because I don't really give a shit about it. And then if you could talk to all of us about actually what I care, we're asking them to make a level of distinction that they A, can't make, and B, shouldn't have to make.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we might just have, the best thing to do in this scenario is literally just to accept that the circle is chaotic and the circle is like pulling on strings. I have sometimes wondered about coming up with like a non-verbal cue that you'd have to work on it not being rude, but something non-verbal that just sort of says like, I'm getting to the end of how long I can sit still. Like, if it's like, oh, if you could just, but you'd have to, because you would have to make it not rude. Because if you said like, look, if you're getting towards the end of your, just so we know.
For some people, that's immediately.
Yeah. They would be like, straight away, I don't want to sit down. Can't do this thing. Or for other people, you'd be halfway through it, they'd be going, and actually it was really important this weekend. I'm doing my thing, shut up now. Which is not what you want. God. But I feel like we've talked a lot about, I feel like we've rounded out some validation ideas. You made a lot more notes than me. Do you have anything else that we didn't get to?
I did, but I feel like they're quite niche, so I think it's fine. They're about reflective listening.
Let's do another one about reflective listening. Let's do a whole thing about reflective listening.
I don't know if it is a whole thing.
It will be.
But I think
it's a big thing.
That's another thing to research if you're thinking, oh, this kind of piques my interest, I want to find out more about that. There are some kind of differing ideas about reflective listening, especially amongst the neurodivergent community. So reflective listening looks different for different people and kind of connected to validation. But yeah, I think that's a whole other thingamabobby.
Lush. I can't wait to hear Brain Admin, the album.
How many instruments are you going to play in the Brain Admin song?
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
At the same time.
25.
25. Right.
Enjoy.
Bye.